All right. Okay. So, all right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Sarah, and I am in the marketing department here at the YMCA. So I'm helping out Pam, who is the organizer of these talks. She will be joining us at the end of today's presentation, and she'll be the one controlling all the question and answers as well. Okay, so it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the Elder Well-Being Assessment. It's a unique tool that creates clarity in the chaos of the elder transition. So today our speakers are going to be Kristen Leanhart as well as Marty Fogarty. So welcome. Once again, we will be recording this talk, so it will be a part of the WISE podcast on the YouTube channel. So if you're a member, you'll also be able to go back and reference this video afterwards. This usually takes about an hour, and Kristen and Marty, they will both have questions at the end of the presentation. So once again, just keep yourselves, if you can keep yourselves muted during the presentation, and then once the question forum is open, we will go ahead, you can go ahead and unmute yourself for the question portion of the presentation. So just a little bit about this, the talk today. Society support systems for the chronically ill and the elderly facing the complexities of aging and decline are broken. Modern U.S. society has designed itself around this population, leaving your loved ones to face a frightening and expensive future, with very little in the way of support mechanisms. The Elder Well-Being Assessment ensures that you get clarity about what's available for you to honor and protect yourself and your loved ones during these chapters of life. Okay, with that being said, take it away, Marty and Kristen.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for taking some time to attend this presentation today. I'm going to start out with a little bit of a background here, and we'll get right into it. So this is, the organization is ElderSmart. I'm Marty Fogarty. I'm the founder of the Heartland Law Firm in Glenview. I've been practicing law for 33 plus years. The Heartland Law Firm has been around 23 plus years. Basically, I had a few too many front row seats, both in my personal family life and with clients, to see how broken the elder well-being safety net is. And when my dad fell through it about 7 years ago, I created ElderSmart. ElderSmart's a nonprofit organization in Illinois designed to educate and support and advocate for families going through what I call the elder transition. I'll describe it in our conversation here today. What I would say is my experience with the elder transition, when my dad was in dealing with Alzheimer's and not being a particularly cooperative dementia patient. The hospitals and the facilities were not prepared to deal with that and support that. And what I realized was that the systems were designed around the hospital's well-being or the facility's well-being, not the patient's well-being. And it really caused me to look into what is elder well-being and what do we have in place to protect it. And that's what ElderSmart's about. It's about creating that support in society. But I was so taken by it, and it changed my view so much that I changed my entire firm. My firm, the Heartland Law Firm, which works in estate planning, elder law, probate, business planning, real estate. We refer to ourselves, our mission and everything we do is that we are a well-being firm. The entire purpose of the firm is to enhance the client's well-being. And what happened there was I realized in the elder transition, there's such a lack of support and focus on the client or the elder or the family whose loved one is the elder going through this decline. There's such a lack of support or focus on the well-being of that individual. And that's because If we go to the chapter before that, there's a lack of focus on well-being as well. So that insight helped me redefine who the Heartland Law Firm is, what we're about. So we're a well-being firm dedicated to supporting client well-being through all of life's major events. And ElderSmart is a subset of that that addresses personal well-being, whereas a law firm could address legal, financial, et cetera well-being. Really, in the elder transition, you need personal well-being attention. And that's what ElderSmart does. So let's get into that. First, life is a series of chapters. Okay, it's pretty simple. There's the alive and well chapter, the alive and not so well chapter, and then there's after death, right? And so ElderSmart deals with this alive and not so well chapter, right? I want to talk about well-being here. Well-being and ElderSmart is dedicated to protecting elder well-being, right? Empowering elder well-being. This picture shows during the alive and well chapter, our well-being is at basically 100%, right? We can do everything. We can make our own decisions. We can sign our own name, make our own healthcare choices. But then as we go through life, in the not so well chapter, and certainly in the after death chapter, what happens is that our well-being, it changes over time and it declines, right? When we're alive and not so well, there's a memory or a mobility issue. There's some decline in our well-being overall, and we need help, right? But society has an acute healthcare system, right? The acute healthcare system is when you go to the doctor and then on the way home, you stop and you can go to the pharmacy and pick up your meds on the way home from your doctor visit. That's how wired in and wonderful our healthcare system is for the alive and well and the acute system. So acute healthcare system gets us back to our normal. It gets us back to 100% well-being. But when we're dealing with an elder frailty issue in the not so well chapter, there's less and less of a networked support system because the not so well chapter deals with chronic healthcare needs, whereas the alive and well chapter deals with acute healthcare needs. So let's go now to the next slide here. Society doesn't understand the not so well chapter yet. And so what happens is you as a family, you're forced to create your own network of support to get your loved one through this alive and not so well chapter. Okay, I'm going to check in real quick here. If you've got a beeper in the background, can you mute your microphone? If you're printing a paper or something, you've got extra microphone, extra sound coming in. So let's go to the next slide here. Because society doesn't understand the not so well chapter, we scramble and we have a very difficult transition for our elderly loved one. So our well-being suffers and declines through the not so well chapter when it doesn't have to. And the reason it suffers is because we don't quite understand it. We don't have the right approach to it. And what I want to do in this presentation is help you see what the right approach is. So here is a typical sort of example of what happens when we enter this not so well transition, this decline. One thing we do, we go to the doctor and we get some medical help, and that helps us feel better. We go to the lawyer and we might update our legal documents and we make sure that our healthcare power of attorney is still good. Then maybe we get a home health caregiver, or we adjust things so that we have people at home. So what we've done here is, in our typical scramble, is take some steps to address some of the issues that are there. And this is wonderful, but the challenge is we do feel a little better, and it does take a lot of effort to even pull those three things off. And if you've done those three things when you have a loved one facing elder frailty, you've done a ton. But these yellow spots here show that we don't have a comprehensive plan, and that there are these really giant gaps that are in our blind spots. We can't even process those. I want to use the word process here because a lot of what is going on in the not so well in this elder transition is our inability to process and solve for these issues that we're facing. And that's what happens here. For example, I went to my doc. He always gave me a pill. I felt better, or he told me what to do. I did it. I felt better. But this is a chronic issue I face this time. He can't give me medicine to help my dementia. My dad's neurologist, when he was suffering with Alzheimer's, could not do anything for my dad. He would basically give him the pills and say, "Come on back in 6 months, and we'll see. We'll talk about how they're not working." I mean, there's literally very little in the way the medical acute healthcare system can support our loved ones when we're facing a chronic issue. We see this all the time where, well, I had a will and powers of attorney and I updated them. But what I didn't know or I didn't do is get a guarantee that my assets are protected if I face a nursing home financial aid matter, or I guarantee I won't go to probate. That sort of thing. What's happening is we will use these supports in society that we've had, the doctor, the lawyer, the caregiver, but we're doing it without an understanding of the greater context. So the caregiver will help make it better, but I'm still at risk there. So there's gaps here in between the work that we're doing. We can't see the gaps in our well-being because it's exhausting. And I want to talk about who goes through who goes through the elder transition. It's not the elder. It looks like my dad was going through this, but it was the entire family system going through this. Nobody escapes, right? So the challenge we have is that, one, we as a society don't define the problem correctly. The real problem is that when a family has an elderly loved one going through this decline because they're dealing with an elder frailty issue, it takes it out of the norm. The medical system can do less for it. The legal system can do less for it. The solution, let me say this, if I rely on my typical way of handling things the way I did when I was alive and well, I'm going to have these gaps because I'm looking at it wrong. So what we have to do is we have to look at it and we have to say, there's something in my blind spot. I'm going to take a fresh view of it, and I'm going to look at it as an entire family system. What don't I see? What steps can I take? And the best metaphor for this, best analogy, is the 5 blind guys and the elephant, right? So here we've got a picture that depicts this, right? This blind guy who's at the back of the elephant, he thinks the elephant's a rope. This blind guy who's at the tree, at the leg, thinks it's a tree. The one at the trunk thinks it's a snake. They're all correct, right? That part of the elephant here is the elder transition. Whatever small part you're dealing with, you are correct. But unless you're communicating with these others who are focused on understanding the elder transition and what it means to the family system, then unless we're communicating, we're not going to get the best outcome. We're not going to be able to predict that the elephant can stampede through a village, right? We're not going to be able to predict that, the size of it, or what it can do, or what the upside of it is. So it's really important to not only understand each of the aspects of it, but then to communicate those aspects and to understand those aspects given the family circumstances and the client's circumstances. So we will talk about one thing that families do a lot of is It's like we describe it, you're building a house with great tradesmen, but we don't have, an overall blueprint, right? Great plumber, electrician, and carpet layer here, right? But what about the overall? Did we have a blueprint? Did we square up any of the walls, right? So part of what ElderSmart's approach is to say, let's get clear, let's get a blueprint together, let's understand all of the elements here. And this is just not done in our world. There's when a loved one gets the diagnosis, or a child sees, oh, dad got lost on the way home, something's going on. The very first thing that we typically do will be explain it away and rely on an old way of doing things. So, I got the diagnosis of dementia. Okay, well, hopefully the doctor can give me some meds and that'll take care of it there. Not realizing that not only will that medical solution not really provide much benefit, but that elder frailty actually impacts families legally, financially, personally, medically. Like it just is going to go everywhere. So the blueprint idea is, let's get a blueprint. Let's get clear on the entire situation. What are the variables? What's going on? What's at stake? And then what are our options? I would say that the number one trend I see with people is that you've been hit with something and you don't know quite how to solve for it. And once we go through our process, you start to solve for it, and we get the best outcome. We all know where the game ends, right? In the alive and not so well to transition to passing away. But the goal is to optimize my loved one's well-being as they go through this elder frailty decline. And that includes the well-being of the family system. So first of all, the way ElderSmart has found success in helping families has been to create a process and to follow the process and to instill structure and order in the family system that's dealing with the chaos of whatever happened. Dad fell, he went to the ER, they sent him to rehab. Now he can't come home unless he has caregivers or whatever. Mom got the diagnosis of dementia. Dad got lost driving home. My failure to launch brother is living in the basement and he's financially sucking off my parents like he's a 18-year-old, but the guy's 52. Like, all of these sorts of problems are part of the elder transition, and they're all part of elder frailty. And what is needed is a process. All of these sorts of things evoke some sort of chaos, and we're dealing with chaos because it's emotionally just like dynamite. It's just too difficult for us to process. So what ElderSmart does at a minimum is help you think through, identify, work with each aspect of this problem. It's still hard. It's still overwhelming, but our process helps normalize it, and it helps you honor the dignity of your elder loved one, and it helps you protect their vulnerability. It's about the best we can hope for. We know our elderly loved ones are going to pass away. That's just part of the game we're playing. We're all going there. That's okay. But we have this opportunity to take this difficult time. And if we can apply a process to it, then what happens is we will be rewarded with some of the most beautiful and powerful moments you'll ever have are in this chapter, and despite being in the midst of this chaos, etc., because you have a process and you understand the context of where you're at, you're able to be present, and you're able to support your loved one and each other as you go through this. So let's talk through this a bit more. So here's our picture again, and we're talking about elder well-being, and we see how in the not so well period, there's a decline, but we will go in certain aspects of our well-being, we'll make some approaches to. But there are these gaps here. And what we're saying, ElderSmart, what we're going to do is help you address these gaps. Everyone's gaps are different. These are like fingerprints. Every family has their own circumstances. But ElderSmart is going to help even that up so that we have less of a decline. So we're going to identify, we're going to minimize, we're going to eliminate these gaps, these threats in our blind spots, this lack of understanding of the context that we're in. It's almost like, we are in winter now, but we don't realize it. We're still acting like it's early fall. What the ElderSmart process, by following that, it helps to adjust and align so that you're understanding your activity, your actions, minimize the bad surprises that are coming and helps support you. And that's what well-being is. Well-being is about greater control, greater autonomy, greater prediction, acceptance, right? So better choice. That's what this is. It's, again, honoring their dignity and protecting their vulnerability. So how do we do this? Let's just talk this through. So the first step is a discovery call. Typically what happens is a client will call and they'll talk to Kristen. Kristen will have a conversation, just trying to understand what's going on, where you're coming from, what's happening. And then from there, Kristen would likely take the next step and send you a link, share the elder assessment with you. Now, this is where we get into processing. Do you remember when you were in grammar school and you had the addition? You were doing your mathematics, right? The addition, and it was, I don't know if it was first or second grade, but you got it down. You knew 2 + 3, 5, right? You just had it down. But then at some point you got into multiplication, and then that was a different way of processing than addition was. And then you got into division. You got into long division. So if you can recall, as those math lessons got more complex, you had to process those differently depending on which type of equation it was. And that's what's going on here. This problem of the elder frailty decline is so vast that we can't get our arms around it. We can't look at the problem and say, oh, well, that's a long division problem. I remember how we do that. I know how to carry the number, etc. Or that's a multiplication number, or that's a simple division. I could do that in my head. This is bigger than that. It's so big that our processing locks up, just the way it did when you forgot how to do long division that time, and you got that problem wrong, and later you look back and you're like, oh, if I only remember what to do, I would have got it right. Well, that's the same thing here. There is no way you'll get this right on your own. I think humans are wired to be social creatures. We're wired to be dependent on each other. We have a saying that together we're better. There's something about this elder not so well chapter with elder frailty where we really have to, we cannot be hiding our vulnerabilities. And that can be a difficult thing. So this clarity process begins with the elder assessment. Now, the elder assessment is going to help you process this, right? It's going to look from a financial perspective, from a personal, relational, legal perspective, from a medical perspective, and it's going to give you some prompts, and you're going to be able to answer this. And in the ideal situation, you're calling and you talk to Kristen and you're going to talk to her about your mom, let's say. And Kristen will have the conversation with you and get you the clarity process, the first step here, the elder assessment. And then you're going to be able to take that to your siblings. And now everyone in the family system is going to be able to identify what's going on. And then what happens is when that gets submitted, and it all happens online, you can do it on your phone or your computer. When it gets submitted, then the ElderSmart team, which is made up of professionals in elder law, finance, healthcare, medical benefits, there's backstage independent experts review this and create basically a report for you. And what happens with this is there's a roadmap that you're going to have that says, here's some clarity for you in this difficult thing you're in, right? This is the third step then, the roadmap. And now you're able to understand that, oh, there are steps I could take immediately to protect all of the assets or half the assets. And you'll get the clarity about the 5-year look back rule and about how it really doesn't matter. And you can really protect up to 70% of your assets, regardless of the 5-year look back. How you can solve for getting a caregiver and what the different ways are to do that and how to prepare for that. So every family is going to be a bit different in what they're facing, but because the roadmap is the result of the structured review of all of the circumstances the family's in, it automatically will prioritize and really tee up for you simple questions that you are able to process, right? You can't process the whole thing, but you can process the smaller things, you know? So for example, some families their first situation, their number one issue might be, it's my failure to launch brother who's taken advantage of my parents, right? Their issue may be financial abuse or a relational issue in the family, or a special needs son who, what's he going to do when mom passes away? That could be their major issue. Yours might be, I've got to protect the assets. I don't want there to be a spend down, so my mom only has $2,000, or we have to sell her house if she goes to the facility. That might be your number one. And we don't know the answer until we go through the assessment and you have objective expertise, review it, and then share the roadmap with you. That's what happens there in step 3. And then step 4 is guidance. This is where there's a conversation, where this might be a family call and we walk through the results of the assessment. We walk through the roadmap step by step. And from here, you may say, all right, that's what I needed. Thanks for the clarity. I'm going for it. Perfect. You may say, I can't do this. I need help. Okay, perfect. In this guidance piece, guidance may be just education. Guidance may be connecting you with appropriate advocates. Guidance may be helping you understand how much different things should cost. Well, if I want to protect that house, how much would that trust cost? If I'm in an emergency Medicaid situation, but my dad has, a $200,000 IRA, how can I protect 120,000 of that and still qualify for Medicaid? The guidance is what happens where you get that clarity. And finally, this is the newest piece of it, is community. If you think about COVID and how brutal that was on us as a society, one major reason was because it isolated us. It really, really caused isolation that we're still recovering from. And that's very similar to what the elder transition and elder frailty does to families. And it may be my dad who's declining, but I'm here and I'm feeling isolated because very few people can relate to what I'm going through. There's no real community for me to again process, deal with, respond to everything the emotions and the mourning that I'm facing here. And so the ElderSmart community is a really wonderful opportunity to normalize this and to say, all right, this group in this community is made up of people who either have gone through or are going through this transition, and they understand how brutal it is, and they're dedicated to support others who are going through it. And this is a wonderful community to be a part of. And it doesn't matter where you are, it just matters you have the right, that you would embrace the idea of being curious, of being there to support another, or being there to get the support you need. The idea is of this community that I think makes the difference is it's really acknowledging the fact that we are so vulnerable and our loved ones are so vulnerable when we're in this alive and not so well elder frailty situation. So this is a really strong piece of what ElderSmart has done. And it's a recent addition to it, and it's really made a wonderful difference for families. So I'm going to say ElderSmart restores and maintains your elder well-being. So I'm going to make the point that, over on the right there is the after death chapter. And I get none of us want to pass away. And it is also just part of the game. It's just part of the game. It's going to happen. So our well-being should be able to be at 100% even when we're dying. And we as a society don't exactly focus on that. But that's, I think, one of the main things that we found in working in this space with families is that there's absolutely 100% opportunity to maximize well-being right up until one's final transition. And I wouldn't say that we're dealing with, the majority of our people are at death's door by any means, but we've had enough experience with that when you're at that place and you look back and knowing that you invested your resources, your time, your heart, your attention into the well-being of this vulnerable, frail elder, that's a very powerful and rewarding place to be. And the ElderSmart process puts people into that space. That's not the reason we started out doing it, but that's what we have found is one of the benefits of it. So we first start with this blueprint that I was just describing here, and this is the elder assessment where there's a call to Kristen. She's sharing the elder assessment. You're sharing it with family members, perhaps, or maybe you're just filling it out alone. You're answering it. We then are reviewing it internally, and then we're going to work with you to set expectations, clarify what is this outcome we are building? What is the outcome here? What's the best we can hope for? What are the threats we are facing right now? What opportunities might there be? And what's going on here is we're advocating for the client's well-being, not only the elder, but the entire family system here. And when I say well-being, it's legal, personal, and financial well-being. Next, why we advocate is that it's no longer representation. The word advocate means to work on behalf of. So we are representing, we are connecting you to an advocate who is helping you make the best placement, ensuring the right caregiver fit happens, ensuring if the elder wants to age in place at home and leave the facility, that we can make that happen for them. So I don't think that our societal systems are designed for the well-being of the frail elder. And the way you can still get that outcome is by building a support network of your own, a system of your own that's going to be able to create that for you. And because we cannot rely on society to create that for us. So we are a registered nonprofit in Illinois. We are a leader in the elder advocacy movement. We are very dedicated to what I call coordinated support, meaning advocates working together on the behalf of the loved one. Our elder advocacy is connecting you to whatever you might need. For some families, it's some sort of coaching or guidance. For elder advocacy, it could be case management. It could be support groups, counseling. We help connect people to VA, Medicaid, Medicare benefits in the most affordable way. So it's a comprehensive foundation that you get by taking the first step to call, have a conversation with Kristen, answer some questions about your loved one, and then you'll understand, you'll start to get clarity, and clarity leads to power, and that empowers you to make progress and create the path that's going to protect the elder in your life and their well-being without getting derailed and sucked into the chaos. So I hope this speaks to you, and I hope that you see some value here. What I would request is, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'm open to questions now. You could call us at the number on the screen, or you could visit ElderSmart.net and ask a question there. We've got programs that we're launching in terms of education, et cetera. And you could always also call, and Kristen will help you understand what the elder assessment is in terms of getting you connected with it, and you can take it. There is no charge for you to take the elder assessment. There's no charge for you to get the blueprint or the roadmap. This is a mission that we are on to help clients get clarity about the landscape they're in, so they understand what options do they have. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, please, moderator, let me know.
All right, thank you so much. Amerkansky here. Any questions? I think I saw one. Oh, it's a good program. I think they're asking about funding, or how do you fund yourselves?
Say again, funding?
It sounds like someone wrote, it sounds like a great overall program. How do you get paid? So I was saying,
yeah, so there's, we have how would I describe this? In the roadmap, there's going to be a solution, right? And the solution is going to say, you can join the support community. And the support community is an online community we have that is a fairly nominal fee, okay? And that's going to lead to, there's some revenue there, okay? But you can, if that makes sense to you and works for you, great, you're going to pay, and you're going to, it'll fee for service. There could be, I would say, referral opportunities. We will give you the list of different individuals who we think might be a fit. It could be placement for a home. It could be, social worker advocate, Medicaid benefits, et cetera. So we will make those connections for you. We don't have a fee for doing that. What I would say is that not only do I own ElderSmart, but I own the Heartland Law Firm. And I've been doing this for 23 years. I have a very networked in, group of other professionals that utilize ElderSmart. And I would say because we're able to give clarity, there's really not a big price to give you that clarity. It helps me in the marketplace. You know, I'm doing something that I'm being called to do, but I'm also getting financial rewards, because when the CPA sends his client to ElderSmart and they're happy, the CPA is happy with me and good things happen. So I guess that's my answer.
Amazing. Any other questions from our group? This is videotaped, so it will be available online. If you do have any other questions or things that you might have missed, or friends that you would want to see this program, it'll be up within the next half hour. Anything, final thoughts? All right.
Pam,
Oh, well,
very much.
thank
Thank
you
you
to
very
Marty
much.
and
Thank you.
Kristen for joining us today for another YS program. So thank you so much for being here today. Special thank you to ElderSmart as well. Check them out. These are free and open to the public. Check us out online. You can find this podcast later on at nsymca.org/YES. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to having you again. Thank you, Marty.
Cheers,
And thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.